Okay, it's preparing for the live stream, so don't start counting yet.
All right, I believe we're live. Can you hear me, board? All right. Good evening and welcome to the first virtual meeting of the City of Dublin Board of Zoning Appeals. We are living in extraordinary times. Both the state of Ohio and the City of Dublin have declared states of emergency. The Ohio legislature passed several emergency laws to address the pandemic, including the ability for public entities to have virtual meetings. We appreciate this ability to maintain our continuity of government. For the duration of the stay-at-home order, we will be holding our meetings online and live streaming those meetings on YouTube. You can access the live stream on the city's website. In order to submit any questions or comments during the meeting, please use the form under the streaming video on the city's website. These questions and comments will be relayed to the board by the meeting moderator. We want to accommodate public participation and comment to the greatest extent possible. We welcome your comments on the cases, but please refrain from making any inappropriate comments. This is not a perfect system, but we will do our best in these difficult times, and we appreciate your patience. Thank you. And again, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is the oath of office. And our mayor is here on the meeting to administer the oath of office.
Good evening, Board of Zoning Appeals members. And first of all, I would just like to say on behalf of a very grateful City Council, thank you for the work that you do. We really appreciate your flexibility in this format. I know that it's difficult. We held our first City Council meeting the other night, but confidence is high that you're going to get through with flying colors. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for enduring with us in these challenging times. So Satya, I'm going to swear you in now. So if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Satya Goyal.
I, Satya Goyal.
Do solemnly swear.
Solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
I will faithfully execute.
The duties as a member.
Duty as a member.
Of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
As a Board of the Zoning Appeal.
Of the City of Dublin.
Of the City of Dublin.
And will to the best of my ability.
And will of the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
And the State of Ohio.
And the State of Ohio.
And the ordinances and charter.
Ordinance and the charters.
Of the City of Dublin, Ohio.
Of the City of Dublin, Ohio.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So I wish I was there that I could actually shake your hand, but I will virtually shake your hand and congratulate you that you are officially a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I will let you get to the important work that you have to do tonight. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Grooms.
Yeah, nice, appreciate it.
Yep, have a great meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Order of business will be the roll call. Please call the roll.
Ms. Cooper,
Here.
Mr. Deschler,
Here.
Mr. Goyal,
Here.
Ms. Herbert,
Here.
Mr. Nye.
Here.
Very good. And our next order of business is the election of officers. Do I have a motion to appoint Jason Deschler, Vice Chairman?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Goyal,
Yes,
Mr. Deschler,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes. All right, and next, our next order of business is, do I have a motion to appoint Martha Cooper as Chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals?
I'll move.
I'll
I'll
second.
second. Oh, go ahead.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Goyal,
here,
Ms. Herbert,
Here. Yes.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Mr. Deschler,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes. Thank you. The next order of business is the acceptance of documents. Is there a motion to accept the documents into the record?
I'll move.
I second it.
Ms.
Please
Herbert,
call the roll.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Mr. Deschler,
Yes.
Mr. Goyal,
Yes,
Ms. Cooper.
Yes. The next order of business is the approval of meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the January 30, 2020 meeting minutes?
I so
I
move.
motion- I second it then.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes, approved.
Mr. Deschler,
Yes.
Mr. Goyal,
Yes,
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
All right, the next thing we're going to do on our agenda is we are going to swear in the witnesses. Anyone intending to address the board on a case this evening, please raise your right hand and answer in the affirmative. Nicole, should I be waiting for them to be visual, or? I only see
Yeah.
Zach.
Glenn, we're going to need Glenn to unmute himself and show his video.
And raise his right hand. Okay. All right. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Very good. All right. The first case is the Carpenter residence, located at, it's case number 20-065, and it is located at 8201 Riverside Drive. This is a request for a non-use variance. And our presenter is Zach Hounshall, and I'll give Mr. Hounshall a moment to present or to begin to share his presentation to our board.
Thank you. And if I do start to become unclear, please notify me and Claudia will step in to finish the presentation as well.
We sound loud and clear right now.
Wonderful. Well, good evening. Today we will be reviewing a non-use area variance for the Carpenter residence located at 8201 Riverside Drive. Shown on the screen is the site and consideration today. This is zoned R1 and does back up to the Scioto River to the west of the property. The site also does have many elevation changes and natural features associated with the site, which you will see with the existing conditions shown here. The furthest left photo is the front of the house as you are approaching from the east. This is also the location where you will find the proposed detached garage. The central photo is to the rear of the house, which would be the west elevation. And here you can also see the elevation change. And then to the furthest right photo would be the south of the house. which is where there is a large ravine that does run from east to west, located on the site. Shown on the screen is the proposed site plan for the detached garage. The applicant is requesting a variance to zoning code section 153.074 B5A. This zoning code section refers to all accessory structures and detached garages being located to the side or rear of the principal structure, and that principal or no detached garage or accessory structure may move forward of the principal structure. The applicant is requesting that a detached garage be located approximately 20 feet forward of the principal structure. The applicant has provided a statement for the board to review, stating the elevation changes and natural features on the site. Shown on the screen in red are areas of steep elevation change that would make it very difficult to build any structure there at all. And shown on the screen, the proposed site plan and location of the garage is the only feasible location for the site, or for the detached garage, that would meet all applicable setbacks and would financially make sense as well. Planning staff has reviewed this application to all applicable non-use variance criteria. Trying to move this forward. After review, planning has found that due to the topography of the site and steep natural features, and this being approval of the variance with no conditions. If the board has any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, the applicant is also here to address any comments and concerns you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Do the board members have any questions for Zach at this time?
I do not.
Do not have.
I do not.
I do not have.
Jason, do you have anything?
I don't at this time.
Zach, can you stop sharing your screen so that we have a video of the members again?
Okay, I don't have any questions at this point. So would the applicant like to comment on this application?
Hi, thank you. I think Zach did a great job of summarizing what the issue is with the, like you said, unique topography of the lot. Really the only place that we can place the garage is where we've laid it out on the site plan. So I appreciate the time of the board to consider our appeal, and hopefully we can find that this works out for everyone.
Zach, will you put the site plan back up on our screen? Thank you. All right, is there any public, or has there been any public comment submitted for this application, Zach?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And do any of the board members have questions for the applicant regarding this request?
I do not.
I do not either.
I do not.
I do not
All right.
have at this time.
Okay. Well, I have no comments either. I think the site plan speaks for itself. And is there a motion to approve a variance to allow a detached garage to be plus or minus 20 feet forward of the primary structure as indicated in the variance application?
I so move.
Second,
Please call the roll.
Ms. Herbert,
yes.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Mr. Goya,
Yes.
Mr. Dashler,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes. All right, thank you, Ms. Carpenter. We're going to move now to our next case, which is the Boggs residence located at 6386 Albanese Court. This is a non-use variance request, and it's case number 20-050V. The presenter is again Zach Howenschel. And again, let's give Zach a moment to share his presentation on behalf of the staff.
Thank you, Martha. Good evening. Tonight we'll be reviewing a non-use area variance for the Boggs residence located at 6386 Albany Circle. Shown on the screen here is the intended site. The site is located within the Riviera subdivision. The subdivision is located just north of the Belvedere subdivision and just west of Muirfield Village. This site in particular does back up to the space reserved to the north.
Excuse
Shown
me,
on the
Zach.
screen is just a full site plan. Yes.
Excuse me, we're getting some feedback, so.
Is there still feedback?
That's better, thank you.
Absolutely. As we were saying, this is the proposed site plan and just the site plan in general with all property boundaries shown to give you a sense of the entire site with the proposed pool and patio. The applicant is requesting to area development tax section DS15A3C, which refers to the 25-foot required rear yard setback. The applicant is requesting an 18-inch encroachment into this 25-foot rear yard setback. The applicant is also requesting a variance from zoning code section 1C3. This is the 10-foot setback between the principal structure and swimming pool into the setback. The applicant has provided a statement summary of health requirements of the applicant. The shown pool shell is the only shell that would meet their physical therapy requirements. There were no other shells that would meet those requirements. So that is what they were here today asking for these variances, as it would fit best within this site plan. Planning staff has reviewed this application to all applicable non-use variance review criteria. And after reviewing the existing building layout, proximity to the reserve to the north, and the physical needs of the applicant, planning staff is recommending approval of both conditions, or of both variances tonight. If the board has any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer them. A representative for the applicant is also here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Zach. Let's begin with questions from the board for Zach.
I don't have any at this time.
I don't either.
No
I don't have
questions.
either. Not at this time.
Very good. Okay, and Would the applicant like to comment on this application before the board?
My name's Glenn Duggar. I'm an attorney, 37 West Broad Street. The applicants are friends of mine. They're a little bit unfamiliar with this process. I've done it more probably than I can count, although I have to admit, never having done it on Zoom. This is actually working out pretty well. It's kind of, I'm really surprised by all this. But in any event, no, we have reviewed the staff report. Agree with it. This is being done to address, some relatively minor variances that are necessary to install this pool to address some physical therapy needs of one of the applicants of the home. I think staff concludes that it meets all of the standard, BZA requirements that we're typically looking at. I think we wanted to add that in addition to planning staff support, we've also taken this application to the homeowners association, and in your packet there should be a copy of a letter that the HOA is in support of this application as well. I think given the nature of the porch, because of it's been determined to be a permanent part of the structure, really that kind of causes the necessity for the variance. The property to the north is community open space, so this really isn't in any way adversely affecting anybody. So we're able to answer any questions. I don't have the homeowner obviously as a part of this. I can't get them by phone. If you all need to have a question answered that I can't answer, we've also have Brian Griffith, who is the pool with the pool company. If we need to ask any questions of him, we can also pretty quickly get to him as well. So if there are any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Mr. Duggar, if I could just ask you before we take questions from the board, would you please again state your name for the record and your address, because we need that on our record for our clerk.
Sure. Glenn Duggar. I'm an attorney. Smith and Hale, 37 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Has there been any public comment received for this application?
There have not been any public comments received.
Okay. Do the board members have any question for the applicant's representative?
Mr. Duggar, you said that there was an HOA letter. I don't see that in the packet materials I was sent. Is that or there's a letter to the city? I thought that was from Debbie and Phil, the homeowners. Is that from the homeowners association or?
I'm sorry.
I only have 4 items in my packet. I don't see the letter from the.
I apologize. It's not in the packet, but we did receive HOA approval.
Okay.
Mr. Duggar, do you want to read the letter?
No, I don't think it's necessary. It's in the packet.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Sure, I have a few questions. Was this a spec home? Or did they build it?
They were the ones who built the home, as I recall.
So they designed the home?
I don't know when they, I don't know when in the process that they, I don't know. I can contact Mr. Berthel and find out if you want me to.
Do you know how long the home has been completed?
Let me get Phil on the phone, okay? You've asked 2 questions I don't know the answer to, and he obviously will.
Mr. Deschler, if you looked at that aerial photograph, that was from 2018, and the lot was vacant at that point, so it probably was within the last year or so.
Okay. Obviously, Claudia, the reason I'm asking is because if they built the home with the intention of a pool, they would have known the rules and regulations regarding setbacks and the required variances at the time of the build. So
Yeah, and we can't speak to that because the pool was not part of the original permit for the home. So
I completely understand, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure if it would be the applicant's action that they allowed the condition to exist if they built the home knowing all the code based on the HOA and the required variance that they needed. They would have known that at the time. That's why I asked if it was the spec.
potentially, yes.
I'm just trying to make sure that
That assumes they knew they needed this for therapy purposes at that point, or if it was if they bought it as an inventory home, obviously it was already, started.
Yeah, I think they acquired the house in August of last year. And they built the home. They had no knowledge that by constructing the house the way it was done, that they were limiting the amount of space that they would have in the backyard.
Mr. Deschler, do you have a follow-up on that?
I'm having a hard time making the ends meet with the criteria number 2. If they're the ones that built the home and they had the plans drawn, then they would have had all the measurements they need for whatever they would have intended on doing. I mean, they would have known the lot size. The pool may have been an afterthought. I understand that, but I'm just making sure that I'm fully understanding it right now.
I'd like to have the plan put back up on our screen if we could, Zach. Mr. Deschler makes an interesting point.
Martha, when you look at that, do you mind if I ask a question of Mr. Duggar?
Oh, yes, please.
Mr. Duggar, in this, it says that the applicant chose the pool size based on therapy reasons.
Yes.
Can you tell us, not about the personal therapy question, but about the pool size? What is specific about the pool size that's necessary for the therapy? Is it a length, a width? What does that specifically mean? There's no explanation for us other than that.
Yeah, if you see the pool, you see that the right end of it has a very large area that's very shallow. So of the pools that were available in the pool library, this one is particularly well suited for because it has about a third of the area is very shallow in its depth, and that's particularly appropriate for one of the residents getting in and getting out of the pool.
And is there, just kind of as a follow-up, is there any specific reason why I'm not understanding the pool part of it, why it needs to be as wide as it is or as large? I understand that having the large area to get in is anything. Just help me understand. I'm not saying.
Yeah, as I understand it, there are. I think the term was there's a library or there's a series of choices. These are all pre-manufactured fiberglass pools, and they come in various widths and sizes. And this was the one that was closest to fitting. Does that make any sense? I mean, we don't need a variance if the covered porch is not called because it has a permanent foundation. We don't need any variances. So because the covered foundation is determined to be part of the house, physical part of the house, that brings into these setback, that causes these setbacks constraints.
Was that constructed with the original build, or was that?
Yeah. Yes. But I think the assumption was that the house is the house and the porch is the porch. They had they're regular homeowners. They didn't understand that the covered porch is the point from which these setbacks are measured.
Understand. I have a question for Zach or Claudia, if one of them could answer. I just wondered when, if they know the completion date of the house and when the application was submitted. The original application, not the appeal.
The original pool application, Mr. Nye,
Yes, please.
it was within the last 2 months.
Okay. And Mr. Duggar, do you know when the house was completed? Was August when they completed it, or it sounds like that's when they purchased the property?
That's when they moved in, was in August, yeah.
Okay.
So obviously they're in this process to try and get the pool open for the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zach, I have a question for the staff. Since it's requesting a encroachment into the 25-foot rear setback, was the alternative, the 18 inches, was the alternative considered as a potential variance to have it come 18 inches closer to the covered porch?
So this was a discussion that we had with the applicant prior to submitting for this variance. We had talked about iterations where they were meeting the 10-foot principal structure setback, but encroaching more into the rear yard, and then also vice versa. The applicant decided to go with this layout as it had the least amount of impact on both. However, it does require 2 separate variances. So that was the path that the applicant was taking with this. But yes, obviously, if you were to push it to the north or push it to the south, you'd be encroaching more into one. Granted, you'd have one variance that you'd only be applying for. But yes, they thought this would be the path of least resistance.
And you guys are obviously supportive from the city.
Yes.
Hey, Zach, this is Jason, and this can be for Claudia too. Can you tell me how you came to the conclusion that that second standard was met? Because if they design the home, they design the lot location, they design the type of garage. I just want to make sure we're not allowing something because they didn't foresee what they wanted to do with the property, and all of a sudden now they're in a situation. So can you explain that rationale, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, go ahead, Zach, go ahead.
Go ahead, Claudia.
Oh, I was
Okay.
going to say
well,
that.
If there's anything else you want to add.
Sorry.
We can hear Claudia better, so if Claudia wants to answer.
Certainly. I think one of the reasons why we have come to that conclusion is because it is one of those things where the homeowner, and we believe that, just didn't know the right questions to ask when they bought this house. And we're not 100% sure whether or not the medical needs were at that point the case as well when the house was purchased and occupied.
Is the only type of pool that could be used a fiberglass pool? I mean, aren't there poured pools that can be made to custom sizes that are available?
Mr. Nye, are you asking me that question?
If you know the answer, that's fine. Yeah, whoever.
I don't know the answer. All I know is that they looked at that this pool installer supplier has a host of pool choices, and because of the entry exit issues, because of the actual depth of this pool, but this was the one that was chosen. I think we're searching for, did these people know? Yes, they were aware that, I mean, they have a ranch house that's done to accommodate the situation in the house. They'd hoped to have a pool. I think the only reason that we're having this process, quite frankly, is because the porch counts as part of the house, and because it has a permanent foundation. If it didn't, then we wouldn't have any of these variance constraints. And I don't think an average homeowner could be held to that fine an understanding that the house is the house, the porch is the porch, but you count the porch as the house. I don't know that we can expect a homeowner to understand that distinction.
Hey, Glenn, you bring up a good point. And maybe Claudia can provide some additional information. Where is what's the legal standard, or the structure standard for that matter, about the 8-foot projection from that porch? Where's that coming from?
That is in the zoning code under the pool section.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Deschler, because it has a permanent foundation, it qualifies as part of the house, even though it's an open area. It's an open porch.
Open on 3 sides other than the house side?
Yes.
And Claudia, I don't know if you know this. I know it's things we didn't cover ahead of time, but if let's assume what Mr. Duggar is telling us kind of makes some sense here. If it wasn't poured and it was paver, would that then not count?
Correct. It is, for us, that determination was made based on it shares a foundation. The porch shares a foundation with the principal structure.
So if it either had a paver type structure, or if it had, let's say, 6 inches between the house and that, we wouldn't be having a conversation.
Well, and I don't think when, just speaking for as someone who works for a builder, when you buy a house, you get kind of a simplistic plan. You're not getting the blueprints that have all of these detailed elevations necessarily that show you that this thing has a foundation that's attached to the house. So, if you're doing your due diligence, maybe you think this is probably this is clearly an accessory structure because that's what you assume a porch would be. But then of course they built it with a foundation that shares with the house. That's just my thought. I'm supportive of the application if it means anything. I don't have any further questions.
Jason, I'm understanding the concern you have, and I'm just reading it, and I'm kind of wondering if you reread this, give a strict interpretation to any action of the homeowner. Every house that's built in a situation like this would be the action of the homeowner, I guess, unless they bought. I know you're saying unless they bought it a pre-built. So I guess the mistake we were creating is.
Well, no, I guess no. I hear no. Joe, I think you make good points. A lot of times we have people that bought the home, right? A lot of the cases we have, they bought a home and it was the condition, they didn't create it. There's been some where, people have bought a home and there really isn't a yard in the home, and they knew that going in, and then they wanted to have. They couldn't put. We've seen some where they couldn't put the home anywhere else, and this is the only place they can put the home, with the anticipation of putting a small patio in, and they asked for a setback or something, a variance for that setback.
I understand.
Here, it looks like there could have been fixes with the garage, right? They made it a side load, which impacted the depth big time. So I'm just, I don't know. I don't like the fact of I don't like the porch issue. I think that's, I completely understand that position. Claudia, let me ask you a question. Have you had it where somebody has asked for the porch like this not to be considered as part of the home? Has that ever happened?
And not to my knowledge. This is something that we've discussed with the building department as well to give us their interpretation. And the shared foundation and the shared roof really kicked it over into that principal structure definition. The other thing too is it seems like it's a trend nowadays in these newer builds to have this feature. So that's maybe not something that 5 years ago or 10 years ago people added to their house during construction.
Okay.
Jason, I think you're right, though. I think our decision, at least in my opinion, comes down to, do we say that the homeowner building this did not take any action to create this issue? I think that's what it hinges on, that alone, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, without knowing the other types of pool options that they went through. And I'm just, reading all the printout now, the conditions. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm on the fence here. I'm not a yes right now, to say that.
I start feeling that if that is the case, why don't they change the pool size? Even though liner is a problem, but they're going to build anyway. Nowadays, people, the pool builder can build any size you want, and the liner is generally done not as a prefixed item. I've seen the pool being built here in Dublin.
There would be a significant cost associated with that as well. I mean, assuming we all have unlimited, maybe they made it as it's a cost thing. So they're going with a preset pool, because pools can be very expensive to, extremely expensive.
Our standard says, could it be eliminated by another method, even if it's more costly to achieve? I mean, that's one of the things I'm looking at. So I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the standards we have to use, but it does say, could they use a more costly method and fix the problem? Is what we have to apply. I don't know that we know the answer to that. I agree with Satya. They customize pools and then spray in the liner. So I don't know that a fiberglass pool is the only option available. It seems like they contacted one place and maybe that was the only option from there, but I don't know if we have enough information in front of us to know that. So, Glenn, you're still muted if you want to comment. Sorry about that. I think you remuted yourself.
Oh, okay.
Here you go.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we have a situation where we have a variance on the north side of the pool that's needed and a variance on the south side of the pool. So we would end up having a pool that's 18 inches shorter or narrower if we comply with the setback requirement to the north, and 2 feet narrower if we comply with it to the south. So we'd end up having a very narrow pool. The whole circumstance here is caused by the fact that that a determination has been made that the covered porch counts as the house. An open covered porch counts as the house. If we don't count the covered porch as the house, we can comply with the, if you measure this pool from the setback, then we would comply with these setback requirements.
Yeah, I don't hear that. I don't know that any of us disagree with that, but I don't think that it's in our purview to just say, well, we can just ignore that part of the code. I mean, everyone else speak up if you disagree with me. I don't personally, I personally hear exactly what you're saying, and that makes common sense, but I don't think that we're not allowed to just say, well, that doesn't make sense, and we'll just ignore that part.
Well, I think you have to administer the code with some common sense too, and that's the purpose for the variance process, which is why we're in it. Is we're trying to reach a common sense result here, which doesn't require a custom pool or us essentially to tear out the foundation of an existing covered porch.
Well, I do believe that when you say that there's a customization going on here to accommodate the type of pool they want to install, I kind of see your point there, that it comes in sizes. I haven't researched that issue to know if there's like another manufacturer who makes one that's just a little narrower or whatever. But I also am concerned, as Mr. Nye and Mr. Deschler have expressed, that and we have had other cases where people wanted to do something in the back of their yard, and their footprint of their home basically did not allow that, and they would have been encroaching into setbacks, or and so that is a concern, because in this case, and I wish I could come up with a rationalization for saying that, or maybe I have one that says, well, the cost of tearing down the porch and moving it back 2 feet in order to allow the setback from the porch to the pool is an extraordinary cost.
Can I say here that really you don't have to tear down the foundation. All you need to do is to cut by the saw, concrete saw. You can cut down any foundation and can reduce the width as long as the structure is sound, if it is part of the whole house.
Well, I'm not sure that cutting the foundation from the house is practical either, because it also has the roof line. The roof line comes from the house, and the foundation comes from the house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think that's where we have the.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's where we have, where the request for the variance, at least to us, seems to make sense, in that we have a covered porch that, under the city's code, building code, is called part of the house because it has a foundation, because the roof ties into it. Again, if any of those, if that determination is not made, then we really wouldn't be here today. So it's a code interpretation. I don't think it's unreasonable, or I think it is unreasonable to expect a homeowner to understand those very fine line distinctions. I think most people, if asked, where's the house? First of all, it's a ranch house, so it has a bigger footprint than would a typical 2-story. Again, that's being done to accommodate the health situation inside the house. But we start off with a house with a bigger footprint because of this particular, because
the health issue is there when they build it. So you're saying,
Yes,
so they build the ranch for that reason.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and there should be a thought about reasonable accommodation in this type of situation too. And I don't think that we're asking for variances that either are significant, because they're fairly, one's 2 feet and one's 18 inches. And the second is I think it's very hard to show that there's any adverse impact on any other party, because the property to the north is a public open space.
Well, I haven't heard anybody say that any of us disagree that the criteria is met for the non-adverse impact. I think that sounds like an agreement on that. I think the only issue is the action or inaction of the homeowner. That's what I hear.
Well, let's put it this way. If the property owner knew that we would be here today, they probably would have done something different, but I don't think that they, I think that's expecting them to know a good deal more than they did at that, as they're putting the house plans together.
Well, I think in that case, the builder also has some responsibility for knowing what our requirements are here in the city of Dublin. However, having said that, I'm not going to say that the applicant, I'm comfortable saying that the applicant did not deliberately choose the size of the patio and then deliberately chose the size of, or in order to create this problem with the pool placement.
That's correct.
I don't know if the board is more comfortable just bringing the whole thing closer to the house and saying, okay, the builder and the property owner were unclear as to how the pool was going to be measured from the structure, or if we want to go with the plan and allow the 18-inch encroachment, or perhaps we want them to encroach even farther. I'd like to bring up the site plan again. I think that Mr. Duggar does make a point that there are circumstances where and this is the point of having the variance process, where it's appropriate. I also am concerned and understand Mr. Deschler's concerns, because this was this house and this location. It wasn't like they bought the house and then found out, oh, well, had they moved the whole structure forward or not built a covered porch, we would have been able to build our pool. So there are both sides of the argument here to be made, and I'm trying to kind of facilitate what is the best argument, or the best, not the best argument, but the best compromise to allow them to build this particular pool, which has other needs being met, such as the physical needs of the homeowner, literally physical needs of the homeowner. So does anybody have any thoughts about whether they're uncomfortable? I'm trying to look at the distances. The 15-foot easement, Zach, is going to run basically the 25-foot setback. You're going to be in 20-foot. I'm trying to look at your drawing there at the top. The whole piece, the concrete terrace and the hardscape are allowed to encroach into the 25-foot rear setback, but the pool itself is 18 inches. If we were going to require the pool to be 10 feet from the covered porch, it would then be, I can't do the math that fast, 24, 36, about what? 42 inches into the setback, the rear setback.
That's correct. And I would maybe just let you all know that if you are not taking action on the application that is before you tonight, we would have to table and come back next month, because the advertisement we sent out on your agenda is specific to these two numbers and these two code requirements.
Right, and I understand that, but just in discussing the points of this variance, if there's a better way to resolve the problem favorably to the applicant and without ignoring, basically, or without feeling like we have harmed our standards for the setback and the definition of the covered porch as part of the house. That was what I was trying to explore with Mr. Deschler, and to some extent with Mr. Nye. Mr. Goyle, do you have any thoughts on this as far as how we would be affecting the zoning code by allowing this to go forward as proposed?
It looks to me that we are in totally violation of the code, because it's too close to the foundation, what I see it, or to the porch. And being water so close, I don't know the effect on the foundation over the period, how much the foundation can be deteriorated with the lining. If there is a lining ever leaks in some reason underground or on the side. So that's why typically pools are built away from the house. Or
Yeah, but this structure that they're building is a prefabbed molded piece, as I understand it. It's not going to be poured concrete and a design with all of that, which of course would be significantly more expensive.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because they could build it in the shape of a shamrock or a kidney bean or, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of things if they do a custom. But if they're using a preformed,
pool, yeah, preformed
Madam Chair,
liner.
Madam Chair,
yes,
Madam Chair, could I ask, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. The owner is watching this on YouTube and wanted some additional information that I didn't have to be brought to the board. We didn't really cover this, not knowing that this would be such a contentious issue, but a couple of things. First of all, when the house was built, they did not plan on putting a pool in. It was only in the fall and the winter when they discussed the health condition of one of the household members that they recommended a pool, and they've been getting some of that therapy at the McConnell Center. So the pool was in response to a recommendation from their physician. I think they actually have a prescription for it that came about since they moved into the house in August. The second thing is that because the pool is, they looked at various different types of pools. As you point out, there's a concrete pool, there's a tile pool, there's also the current state of the art in pools are a vinyl liner, and then as you point out, and what we're trying to do here, which is the fiberglass tub. The vinyl liner does not come in the type of shallow, I don't know why the physics of it is such, but does not come in the type of shallow end that this type of fiberglass pool does that you see on your screen. The final thing is that the pool, there's a lot going on here, folks, with the placement of this pool. We accommodate a wheelchair ramp underneath the porch, and then there's a handrail to enable the owner to get in and out of the pool much easier. So we're dealing with a whole lot more than just some of these setback issues. We're also dealing with some of the accessibility issues that the person has, and this is the pool that kind of meets those with as few breaking of the, you know, or contrary to the city's requirements as possible. I don't know if that's helpful, but to me, that's some additional information that I thought you might want to have.
Yes, thank you for the additional information. So in that respect, Mr. Deschler, that does kind of go to our criteria in the second criteria about applicants' action and inaction. I don't know if that satisfies you from the perspective of how this layout was initially built, and then the modifications coming along afterwards with the pool, or if you feel that this now does fall into a reasonable exception or a reasonable basis for a variance to be granted.
Well, you know, thanks, Marty. I think the color that the applicant's attorney put on it and the additional information does alter the perspective a little bit. from the standpoint of if it was essentially doctor prescribed at the time the home was built, that wouldn't have been thought of, right? That's what's being represented. Obviously, we don't have the homeowner here, but you know, presumably their counselor is not providing inaccurate information. The one other question I had is, and maybe this is for Claudia, just a clarification, is that these measurements, and is this off of the concrete? It's not actually the pool, right? It's actually the concrete surrounding it, that terrace.
The
That's
water
what,
surface.
right?
It's the water surface.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, the homeowner is happy to hop on and testify under oath as to that this prescription came on after they moved into the home. I'm not quite sure how we accommodate that given this format, but they just texted me that if you want to speak to the homeowner, they are more than happy to do that. I'm not quite sure how we tie them in given this format.
I don't think we need, this is my
Let
position.
me
I
ask
think we're okay.
Let me ask the board members if there's anyone here who does specifically want to add the homeowner to our Zoom conference. We do have a meeting ID and password to give them. If they do any board members feel that the additional testimony of the homeowner is required here, or can we proceed without adding?
I'm comfortable with the representation from their counsel.
Same.
Yeah, I am as well, Mr. Duggar. Most of us are attorneys as well, and I believe as an attorney, you have the ability to represent their interests, and we take you at your word for doing so. I have no questions for them.
Well, I've been working in Dublin since before Claudia, so hopefully some of this gray hair is well earned. That this will, I hopefully have a reputation for not having misled the city staff over those years.
Well, thank you, Mr. Duggar. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to basically canvass my board to see if we thought we were ready to proceed on the 2 variance requests for this site. Because as Claudia pointed out, we can proceed on these 2, or if we aren't comfortable with the 2 being proposed by the staff for approval, then we would need to so indicate, in fairness to Mr. Duggar, so that they could request that the matter be tabled and perhaps come back with a different plan that would either encroach closer to the patio, or bump it out, or some other measurement. I personally feel satisfied. I think some of the concerns that I think Mr. Duggar has expressed via communication from the homeowner is that they have to have a ramp from the house, which really supports the need to have the patio be built as a foundation that is connected to the main house. So if they're having to ramp out to the patio and then to the pool, to the special rail, I think that has been demonstrated as a special circumstance and appropriate use of our variance power. That would be my opinion. Does anybody have any additional opinions?
I agree, Marty.
I agree. I feel comfortable at this point, and I agree with knowing that they have to have a wheelchair. Having the roof line attached to the house to protect for elements also makes a difference to me.
I think so. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm supportive now. Go ahead, Satya. You got it. Go ahead.
I think it looks to me is a special requirement for the handicap and all the other things being considered. I think it's a special case, and we should look positively.
And Mr.
I'm sup-
Dessler?
Yeah, I'm supportive with the additional information that was provided. I think they can satisfy the element that I was concerned with at the outset.
And I think your concerns were valid, and I agree that Mr. Duggar has now adequately brought forth additional information that really supports the variance approval as recommended by our staff. So is there anyone else who needs to make any or requests to make any additional comments before the board?
I just wanted to point out that we have not received any public comments for this case.
Thank you. Good to know. In that case, I'm going to conclude our discussion and ask if there is a motion. We're going to have two, but the first one is a motion to approve a variance to permit a swimming pool to encroach the distance from the principal structure by 2 feet as indicated on the plans. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
I
Is there a
second it.
second?
I second it.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Mr. Goyal,
Yes.
Mr. Deshler,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Nye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And now our second variance request. Is there a motion to approve a variance to the Riviera development text to encroach within the rear yard setback by 18 inches? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
I second it.
Mr.
Please call the
Deshler,
roll.
Yes.
Mr. Goyal,
Yes.
Mr. Nye,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert.
Yes.
All right, both motions have passed. Thank you, Mr. Duggar. And I think that concludes our two cases for tonight. Claudia or Zach or anyone, are there any communications issues to be brought to the board's attention?
We do not, but thank you all for doing this virtually with us.
I feel so like enlightened here at the new technology, and I didn't cry like they did on SNL, so I'm quite proud of myself. We're going to then adjourn. I thank you for everyone for participating and for bearing with us during this pandemic, and also just encouraging everybody to stay safe and do all we can to keep each other and keep ourselves safe. And if there's no further questions or comments, the next meeting we are scheduled for is May 28th. If an application is submitted for our consideration, and at this point in time, this meeting is adjourned.